So now we're going to finish the cost of goods sold budget. Remember, the cost of goods sold is just that. It's the cost of the bats that we sold. The part that's going to make this a little bit complicated is that we've got some bats from the previous quarter that are in our beginning inventory, and they cost 17 bucks each to make for the youth bats and 14 bucks each to make for the adult bats. But we're also going to sell some bats from this quarter, and here are their prices over here. So it looks like the prices have gone up. So the youth bats are now $18.50 per bat to make this quarter, but last quarter they were 17 bucks. They were cheaper. And the adult bats this quarter we think are going to cost 20.5 to make, but they cost 14 bucks each last quarter. So when we sell some of the bats, remember we're going to be selling some from the beginning inventory and from this quarter. And here's the key. This company uses FIFO to cost inventory. That means first in, first out. So that means that when they're recording a sales transaction, the cost of goods sold is from the older bats. So the first bats that we're going to calculate as being sold are the bats that were produced last quarter and therefore are in beginning inventory. So what we're going to do in this process here is we're going to keep track of the costs of the bats sold from the last quarter and then the cost of the bats sold from this quarter. So the first step is we need to set up a T account for the bat inventory. And in this video, I'm only going to do the adult bats. We'll do the youth bats in the next video. So we're going to set up a T account for bat inventory. And notice this is, since this is an inventory account, it's an asset. And since it's an asset, the plus is on the left side, the minus is on the right side. And this T account, what I'm doing here is these numbers that I'm going to be putting in here are in units, not dollars. We'll get to the dollars later. But first of all, we have to figure out how many units are in the beginning inventory, how many units are sold, and therefore how many must we have built and then sold this quarter. So that's step one. So I recommend on a piece of scratch paper, you set up this T account. So where do we get, let's start right here. Where do we get the beginning inventory of units? So in other words, quantity. And these are costs, just to remind you, these are costs from last quarter, and these are sold first because of FIFO. So how many bats were in our beginning inventory? So the data for our beginning inventory is right here in letter B. And remember, we're doing adult bats. So adult bats, we've got 440. So we can place 440 here. The next step is to figure out, well, how many units are we going to sell or we expect to sell? And we get that from the sales budget. So scroll up to the sale budget, adult bats, we think we're going to sell 3,100. So in this next screenshot, I placed these 3,100 bats on the minus side because they're being sold. And our beginning inventory of bats are right here, 440. So the next step is to figure out, well, how many must we build and then sell in order for us to sell 3,100 bats? So to calculate the number of bats we need to build and sell, in addition to the ones that we already have in inventory, we're going to take 3,100 minus 440. And that will give us our next screenshot. So 3,100 minus our 440 bats in beginning inventory means we must produce and sell 2,660 units. So these two numbers now we're going to use to calculate our adult bats, the cost of the beginning inventory and the cost of the bats built this quarter and sold. So the next screenshot is just an explanation of what the next steps are. So notice that this line, this row is beginning inventory. So that's step 4A. Calculate the cost of beginning inventory at the old cost. And then this line here, bats produced and sold for 2017, that's this step 4B. calculate the cost of the new units produced at this new cost. So let me give you my last screenshot that shows you exactly where the numbers are coming from. So this beginning inventory right here, beginning inventory of adult bats, we have 440 bats in the beginning inventory. Where do we get that from? Two places. From my T account right here, but you can also get it from right here, 440 bats. And then notice I multiplied by 14. Where did I get the $14 from? I got the $14 from right here. From right here. So $14 times 440 gives us $6,160. So I'm going to type that in here. Remember, these are adult bats. Beginning inventory. So beginning inventory, adult bats, 6,160. Now for our screenshot, going back to our screenshot, we got bats produced and sold in the first quarter. So that's this line. Well, how many bats did we have to build and then subsequently sell? 2,660, which we get from here. Just follow my arrows, okay? And then how much did these bats that were built this quarter, how much did they cost? Well, this $20.50 comes from, see if I can get them both on the screen at the same time. $20.50 comes from right here. And what does this right here mean? That's our total projected manufacturing cost per bat. So I'll scroll up a little bit. So our adult bats, we think are going to cost us $20.50 to make in this first quarter. So that's where I came up with this $20.50. So 2,660 bats that we need to build and sell this quarter times at $20.50 gives us cost of goods sold of $54,530. $54,530. And then to get this, we're just going to add up the 6,160 and the 54,530. 6,160 plus 54,530 gives us 60,690. And then the next video, I will show you how to calculate the youth bats. It's the same exact process. And then our totals will be just these two added up and then these two added up.